The call that changed everything. Have you ever had a moment in life where everything changes in an instant? For me, that moment came on a quiet Tuesday afternoon. I was sitting at home, sipping coffee, when my phone rang. It was a call from a wildlife rescue center. They said, "We need your help. A baby lion has been abandoned, and it's in critical condition." My heart skipped a beat. A baby lion? I had worked with animals before, but this was different. This was a lion, a creature of the wild, a symbol of strength and freedom. And now, it was helpless, alone, and needed me. Without a second thought, I grabbed my gear and rushed to the rescue center. Little did I know, this decision would lead to one of the most challenging, emotional, and rewarding experiences of my life. This is the story of how I rescued a baby lion. The arrival at the rescue center. When I arrived at the rescue center, the atmosphere was tense. The staff was busy, and I could hear the faint cries of animals in the background. I was led to a small room where the baby lion was being kept. The moment I saw him, my heart broke. He was tiny, barely the size of a house cat, with big, scared eyes. His fur was matted, and he looked weak. The vet explained that he had been found alone in the wild, likely abandoned by his pride. Without his mother, he had no chance of survival. I knelt down beside him, and for the first time, he looked at me. It was as if he was pleading for help. I knew right then that I couldn't walk away. I had to do everything in my power to save him. The first night, a race against time, the first night was the hardest. The baby lion was too weak to eat on his own, so I had to feed him with a bottle. The vet had given me a special formula, but he was so small and fragile that even feeding him was a challenge. Every hour, I checked on him. His breathing was shallow, and he barely had the strength to move. I stayed up all night, watching over him, praying that he would make it through. It was during those long, quiet hours that I realized how much this little lion depended on me. He wasn't just an animal, he was a life, a soul, and I was his only hope. Building trust. The first steps. Over the next few days, I focused on building trust with the baby lion. At first, he was scared and hesitant, but slowly, he began to warm up to me. I spent hours sitting with him, talking to him, and letting him get used to my presence. One day, as I was feeding him, he did something that brought tears to my eyes. He looked up at me, purred softly, and nuzzled against my hand. It was his way of saying, "Thank you." From that moment on, our bond grew stronger. He started to follow me around, play with me, and even sleep next to me. It was incredible to see how much he trusted me, despite everything he had been through. The challenges of raising a baby lion was no easy task. It required patience, dedication, and a lot of hard work. Every day was a new challenge. Feeding him was a constant struggle. He needed to eat every few hours, and I had to make sure he was getting the right nutrients. Grooming him was another challenge. His fur had to be cleaned regularly to prevent infections. And then there were the medical issues. Despite our best efforts, he would often fall sick. There were times when I thought we might lose him, but he was a fighter. He always pulled through. The bond that grew stronger. As the days turned into weeks, the bond between us grew stronger. He wasn't just a lion anymore, he was family. I loved him like he was my own child. We spent hours playing together. He loved chasing balls, climbing on my back, and even cuddling with me. It was amazing to see how much joy he brought into my life. But I knew that this couldn't last forever. He was a wild animal, and he belonged in the wild. As much as it broke my heart, I knew that one day, I would have to let him go. Preparing for the wild. Preparing the baby lion for the wild was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I had to teach him how to hunt, how to survive, and how to be a lion. We started with small steps. I introduced him to other animals, took him on walks in the forest, and even set up a small enclosure where he could practice hunting. It wasn't easy. There were times when he would get scared and run back to me. But slowly, he began to gain confidence. He started to act like a lion, and I knew he was ready. The day I let him go, the day I released him into the wild, was one of the most emotional days of my life. We drove deep into the forest, to a place where he would be safe. When I opened the cage, he hesitated for a moment. He looked at me, as if to say goodbye. Then, with a roar, he ran off into the wild. I stood there, watching him disappear into the trees, tears streaming down my face. It was bittersweet. I was sad to see him go, but I was also proud. I had given him a second chance at life. Life after the rescue was different. I missed him every day, but I knew I had done the right thing. A few months later, I went back to the forest to check on him. I was nervous, wondering if he would remember me. But when I saw him, it was like no time had passed. He recognized me immediately and even came up to me, purring softly. It was a moment I'll never forget. He was thriving in the wild, living the life he was meant to live. And I knew that I had played a small part in that. A story of hope and love. Rescuing this baby lion was one of the most challenging and rewarding experiences of my life. It taught me about love, resilience, and the power of second chances. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this story, it's this: no matter how small or helpless something may seem, it's always worth fighting for. Every life matters, and every life deserves a chance. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories like this. Until next time, take care and remember, be the change you wish to see in the world.